Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the first part of our lecture, we opened the topic of asceticism, of zuhud. And we mentioned that Allama al-Iraqi rahmatullah alayh defined zuhud by saying, zuhud, asceticism, is to be spiritually detached from this world. To be spiritually detached from the world, and as a result, to detach from worldly matters unless a person is in need of those matters. And we explained that one can be an ascetic, although he is rich, although he possesses worldly items and worldly matters, provided that he needs these worldly items or he uses them to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we gave the example of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi, who at a certain point was the ruler of all Islamic territories, which meant that Amir al-Mu'mineen had the whole world in his hands. He was able to acquire any physical pleasure, to attain any worldly blessing or any worldly gain. Yet, this caliphate, this ruling meant nothing for Imam Ali alayhi salam, unless he used it to uphold truth or to push away falsehood, which meant that the Imam saw caliphate has no value, absolutely no value, unless I use it to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same applies to me and you concerning our worldly matters, our worldly items. If you're blessed with an abundant amount of blessings, and you're using these blessings to live and to acquire a nearness, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whilst your heart is detached from this current world, then you are a zahid. You are an ascetic in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One could ask, one can say, can you clarify the meaning of zuhud even more? Is there any hadith that defines zuhud? Alhamdulillah, we have many ahadith, many narrations that touch upon this vital topic. And by the way, it's important to know that we have different levels of zuhud, different levels of asceticism. The lowest level of asceticism is to be an ascetic concerning unlawful deeds. What we call in Arabic ad-dunya al-muharrama. To be an ascetic concerning unlawful deeds, as in to detest such deeds and to be spiritually detached from them so that we do not commit them physically. We want to try, inshallah, to achieve this level. Hopefully we can get to other levels of asceticism later on. For tonight, we're going to shed light upon two narrations by the commander himself, salamullah alayh, in which he mentions what is asceticism. He says in the first narration, الزهد كله بين كلمتين من القرآن. He says, there are two passages in the Holy Quran that have the whole concept of asceticism. What are these passages? He says, Allah said, لِكَيْ لَا تَأْسَوْا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ وَلَا تَفْرَحُوا بِمَا آتَاكُمْ. Allah says what? He says, so that you may not grieve for what has escaped you, nor be exultant at what He has given you. What is He saying, subhanahu wa ta'ala? He's saying, O believer, I want you to be in a state in which you do not lose patience when you are afflicted with the loss of a blessing. All of us one day will lose one or multiple blessings, such as, for example, losing a family member, or losing a friend, or losing an amount of money, etc. Allah says, I want you to be in a state in which when you lose that blessing, you don't grieve to the extent of impatience. You can grieve. You're a human being. You have feelings. That's fine. But you should not let the grief take you to the point of impatience. On the other hand, he says, I want you to be in a state in which when I bestow a blessing upon you, you do not rejoice to the point of pride. Rejoicing is fine. Islam has no problem with joy. Hence you find that one of the best deeds you could commit is instilling joy in the heart of a believer. However, Allah has a problem with what? With what we call farah, meaning rejoicing to the point of pride. When you receive a blessing, do not start to believe that you're better than other people because you have that blessing and they don't. The Imam says, if you possess both traits, لِكَيْ لَا تَأْسَوْا عَلَى مَا فَاتَكُمْ وَلَا تَفْرَحُوا بِمَا آتَاكُمْ, then you're a zahid. Thus he says, فَمَنْ وَمَنْ لَمْ يَأْسَ عَلَى الْمَاضِي وَلَمْ يَفْرَحْ بِالْآتِي فَقَدْ أَخَذَ الزُّهْدَ بِطَرَفَيْهِ. He says, he who does not grieve over the worldly opportunities he lost in the past, the worldly blessings he lost in the past, and does not feel joy that leads you to the point of pride, does not feel joy over the blessings he receives in the future, such a person is a true ascetic. Such a person holds asceticism in its full form. This is one definition. In a second narration, the Imam alayhi salam defines asceticism through its effects. Ultimately, if you're an ascetic, you will start seeing effects. That asceticism will have an effect on your actions. So what kind of actions stem from an ascetic? The Imam says, الزهد في الدنيا قصر الأمل وشكر كل نعمة والورع عن كل ما حرم الله عز وجل. He says, zuhud, asceticism, being an ascetic concerning worldly matters, means that you will perform three deeds. Firstly, you will be qasir al-amal. What's qasir al-amal? It is a person who expects death. We have two concepts in the narrations of Ahl al-Bayt. A concept called tul al-amal and a concept called qasr al-amal. Tul al-amal is to believe that death is distant. Ultimately, every human being knows he or she shall die one day. But some people believe that death is distant, that they have tens of years to live before they die. This is called tul al-amal. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous because when you believe that you have a lot of time before you pass away, that will give you the courage to actually cross your limits and to sin. On the other hand, you have qasr al-amal. Qasr al-amal is what? Is to expect death. To believe that you could die at any moment. I could die tonight, I could die tomorrow, or the day after, right? The tradition tells us, the Prophet tells us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Nuh alayhi salam was qasir al-amal. He expected death. When he would live, when he was alive alayhi salam, during daytime, he would not be confident that he would live up until the night. And when it would be night, he would not have the confidence that he would live up until the next day. Yet, Nuh lived for 2,500 years, salamullah alayhi, but he was qasir al-amal. He expected death. So the Imam says, the first effect of zuhud is qasr al-amal, to be a person who expects death. Secondly, he says, thanking Allah for all blessings. If you're an ascetic, you will thank the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings He has bestowed upon you. And last but not least, you will refrain from committing all sins. Why all sins? Because if you persist at committing sins, that means you're not detached from the world. Zuhud is to be detached, right? Alam al-Iraqi said, it is to be detached spiritually from this world. Well, how can you be detached from the world when you're persisting at committing sins? Yes, you might have committed sins before and have repented now. which means at the moment you might have become an ascetic. But if you persist at committing sins, then you have not attained that level yet, according to the words of the Commander Salamullahi alayhi. In short, one can be an ascetic even though he possesses an abundant amount of wealth or an abundant amount of blessings. On the other hand, poverty does not equate asceticism. Usually we imagine that if you have a poor individual, automatically he shall be an ascetic, which is not the case. You have to look at his heart. Is it detached from this world or not? If it is, then he's an ascetic. But if it's not, then he's what we call a raghib. He has interest and desire in this world. Yes, when a person's blessings increase, when a person's wealth increases, the danger of deviating increases as well. Hence you find Allah saying in Surah Al-Alaq, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَيَطْغَى. Surely the human being crosses his limits. When? أَنْ رَآهُ اسْتَغْنَى. When the human being sees that he has become rich. When he sees that he has become independent. That right now, he owns fame, and he owns money, an abundant amount of money. At that moment, the human being crosses his limits. Quran is not saying that every rich man or woman will cross his or her limits. No. Quran is speaking on a general level. Or else you have rich people who are ascetic and who are quite pious. Take the example of Sulaiman and Khadija alayhim as-salam. Sulaiman had a kingdom like no other. A kingdom that you would not even dream of. Yet that kingdom meant nothing for Sulaiman unless it was connected to Allah. In fact, the sole reason he asked Allah for such a fabulous kingdom is to use it as a miracle, to show the people that he is a prophet of God. But the kingdom in itself, if you were to detach it from Allah Ta'ala, would mean nothing for Sulaiman alayhi salam. On the other hand, Khadija salamullah alayha, Khadija, as you know, had a fortune, but she used that fortune to serve Allah and to serve Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Hence, she became one of the greatest ladies, in fact, one of the greatest humans in the history of mankind. And she was Zahra. However, you have a lot of rich people who will lead themselves to destruction, to doom, because of their wealth. Look at Qarun. What led Qarun, Musa's cousin alayhi salam, to his destruction? It was his money, right? For this reason, due to the fact that when you have an abundant amount of money and an abundant amount of worldly blessings, you might deviate, or the danger of deviation increases. Due to this fact, you find that the prophets and the imams and the close servants of God, like Sayyidah Fatima salamullah alayhi ajma'een, you find that they were content with a minimal amount of worldly gains and would use the rest of their gains to help people, to serve fellow human beings, to fulfill the needs of the needy. In other words, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through these gains. I'll give you an example. The Lady of Light, salamullah alayha, as you know, possessed a land called Fadak. Rasulullah gave her the land of Fadak when Allah commanded him to do so, as he said, آتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَ حَقَّهُ. So he gave her Fadak. Now Fadak was a prosperous land. Fadak was a prosperous land. There were a lot of crops that were coming from Fadak. Yet Sayyidah Fatima salamullah alayha was using the gains of Fadak for what? To fulfill the needs of the needy. Distributing most, if not all, of Fadak's gains amongst the poor and amongst the needy. The same applies to Imam al-Hasan. Imam al-Hasan was known as Kareem Ahl al-Bayt, the generous man amongst the household of the Prophet. Why? Because whosoever knocked the door of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam would get his need fulfilled, and Imam al-Hassan would provide him with an abundant amount of wealth. The gifts of Imam al-Hassan were quite large, which meant that Imam al-Hassan salamullah alayhi had sources of sustenance that would provide him with a lot of sustenance. Yet you don't find Imam al-Hassan using that sustenance on himself, except in a minimal manner. He uses the majority of it for what? To worship Allah by fulfilling the needs of the needy. Why do the prophets and the imams and the close servants, why do they become content with a minimal amount of worldly gains? Because they know that the more gains you have, the greater the danger of deviating becomes. So they wanted to tell us, basically, they wanted to convey a message telling us, O believers, when Allah Ta'ala bestows worldly gains, worldly blessings upon you, use what you need from it and use the rest to serve Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and to help your communities, so that you own the world and it does not own you. So you stay in control of your world instead of it taking control of you. Hence, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam informs his daughter Kulthum on the night of the strike. He tells her, when Kulthum presents his iftar, she presents a tray that's holding a cup of milk, 2 loaves of bread, and a bit of salt. When she presents that tray, Amir al-Mu'mineen objects. And he tells Kulthum that he does not want to see 2 types of food with bread. There should only be 1 type of food with bread. That is the iftar of Ali, salawatullah wa salam. Then he mentions part of the asceticism of the Prophet. And he tells her the following tradition. He tells her, one day my beloved messenger of Allah told me that Jibreel came down upon me with mafatih kunuz al-ard, the keys of the treasures of this world. Now ponder upon this word, the keys of the treasures of the world. Jibreel brought them to the Prophet. What does that mean? It meant that Jibreel was telling the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, right now, you can become the emperor of all emperors. Right now, I'm going to provide you with the keys that will give you access to any kind of treasure, to any kind of worldly blessings. The worldly blessings we can imagine and the ones we can't imagine. And even then, your status will remain as it is. He tells him, Ya Muhammad, As-salamu yuqri'uka as-salam. Allah salutes you with peace. And he tells you, if you want, I will turn the mountains of Tuhama into gold and silver, and I will give them to you. Here, O Muhammad, accept the keys of the treasures of the world. If you accept them, your status and your reward on the day of judgment will not diminish. Quite a proposal, right? Jibreel is telling him, alayhi salam, he's conveying Allah's message. He's telling him, Allah is telling you, if you accept this proposal, your status will remain as it is. Your afterlife will not be affected 1%. The Prophet said what? Pay close attention. He told him, Ya Jibreel, if I accept, what will happen next? He says, you'll die. Ultimately, one day you will have to die. Yes, you might live for an X amount of years as the emperor of all emperors, but one day you'll die. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, لَا حَاجَةَ لِي فِي الدُّنْيَا. I am not in need of this world. He told him, Jibreel, let me experience hunger on one day and let me be satisfied on another day. Why? He says, so that on the day I experience hunger, I pray to my Lord and I ask Him to bestow blessings upon me. And so that the day I experience satisfaction, I thank my Lord and I praise Him. So he tells him, وَفِّقْتَ لِكُلِّ خَيْرٍ يَا مُحَمَّدٍ. Salawat can be a bit more Fatimi. How about the third salawat, please? Yes, the close slaves of God, salamullah alayhim, they were content with a minimal amount of worldly blessings and would use the rest to help others. Amongst them was the Lady of Light, Fatima, who would give what no other human would give. And I'll give you a few examples so we can conclude. You find her, for example, giving out her iftar with her husband and her blessed children, alayhim salam. When Hassan and Hussein fall sick, Ahl al-Bayt, salamullah alayhim, perform an oath. And they promise Allah Ta'ala to fast for 3 consecutive days if Allah Ta'ala heals the 2 imams. So Allah heals them. When He heals them, they begin to fast. After they fast the first day, they prepare themselves for iftar. Each individual has a loaf of bread and has a bit of water beside him. All of a sudden, the door gets knocked. Who's at the door? A miskin, a poor man. This poor man seeks help. So Ahl al-Bayt give him what? They give him their iftar. And they break their fast on water. The next day they fast. And as they're about to break their fast, the door gets knocked again. This time, it's a yatim, it's an orphan, who's also seeking help. So what do? They give him their iftar, and they break their fast on water. The third day, the door gets knocked. Who's at the door this time? It's a captive. A captive. Meaning a non-Muslim. A non-Muslim has come to the house of Ali and Fatima. Because even non-Muslims acknowledge that this is the house of generosity. So he knocks the door and he asks for help. So they give him their iftar and they break their fast for 3 consecutive days on what? On water. Put yourself in Ahl al-Bayt's shoes. If it was the month of Ramadan and you were about to break your fast and all of a sudden someone knocked your door and asked for food or for help, would you give him your iftar? You might invite him into your house. You might tell him, come and eat with me on the dining table. You might give him some food, but no one, and I speak about myself first, no one would give him his iftar, the full iftar, yet Ahl al-Bayt do, alayhim salam. They give what no other human being might give. You find Sayyidah Zahra, salamullah alayha, after marrying the greatest man on earth after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, she gives what no female would give. After she marries Amir al-Mu'mineen, a lady comes to Sayyidah Zahra's house seeking help, seeking financial aid. So Sayyidah Fatima gives her what? Her wedding dress. This item usually is not given by any female. You find ladies greatly attached to their wedding dresses, which is normal because the wedding dress has a lot of value, a lot of spiritual and emotional value in the eyes of ladies. Yet Sayyidah Zahra, with all ease, gives her new wedding dress to this lady. Why? You know why? Because Sayyidah Zahra alayhi salam understands this world. She understands how insignificant it is and how significant and important the afterlife is. Thus, she uses this world as a bridge to attain the hereafter. She turns her world into an afterlife, into the hereafter. And you can do the same if you become zahid. If we become zuhad, if we become ascetic, we will start realizing the meaning of this world and the meaning of the hereafter. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi afdal as-salatu was-salam, he says on this regard, "Man zahida fi dunya, athbat Allahu al-hikmata fi qalbih." He who loses desire in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will instill wisdom in his heart, in his soul. وَأَنْطَقَ بِهَا لِسَانَهُ. And Allah will make that individual utter words of wisdom. وَبَصَّرَهُ عُيُوبَ الدُّنْيَا. And He will make him aware of the defects of this world. دَاءَهَا وَدَوَاءَهَا. He will show him the diseases, the spiritual diseases of this world and their antidotes, the spiritual medicines that will heal you from spiritual diseases. Then he says, وَأَخْرَجَهُ مِنَ الدُّنْيا إِلَى دَارِ السَّلَامِ وَأَخْرَجَهُ مِنَ الدُّنْيا سَالِمًا إِلَى دَارِ السَّلَامِ. And Allah Ta'ala will take this individual from this world. He will transfer him from this world into the realm of peace, meaning into heaven, as he will be in a state of peace, as in he will be protected from the dangers of this world. Sayyidah Fatima salamullah alayha, similar to her husband, was the embodiment of asceticism, of zuhud. Thus you find her giving when she possesses a minimal amount of wealth. I'll give you one example and we'll conclude with it, inshallah. There's a narration in which Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says that his father said, that Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari said. Now before I mention the narration, you might ask, why is Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam narrating what Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari said? Is Imam al-Baqir in need of Jabir? Obviously not. Imam al-Baqir is Jabir's teacher. However, it seems that sometimes Jabir bin Abdullah al-Ansari and Imam al-Baqir would have sessions in which Jabir would mention what he had heard. And the Imam would listen, salamullah alayhi, similar to a student who speaks with his teacher and informs the teacher of what he has learned. Now when he speaks, the teacher already knows what he's saying, but they're having a conversation regarding some sort of science, some sort of knowledge. Here Jabir, he tells the Imam alayhi salam, one day Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi led us in Asr prayer. When he finished, he sat down with his companions. And as he was with them, an old Arabic man arrived to the scene. This man had come from a distant land. And he was so old, so weak, that he was barely standing. He had a garment on him, but the garment was quite old. It was ripped and was in a terrible condition. So when the Prophet saw him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked him about his issue. What's wrong with you? He told him, Ya Nabi Allah, أنا جائع الكبد, عار الجسد, فقير فأرشد. He told him, O Prophet of Allah, I am hungry, so feed me. And I do not possess clothing, as in the only garment I have is what you see on me. So clothe me. And I am poor, so bestow your favor upon me. The Prophet told him, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, مَا أَجِدُ لَكَ شَيْئًا. I do not have anything at the moment to give you. It seems that Rasulullah had distributed his money amongst the poor, so he had nothing at that moment. He told him, I don't have anything to give you at the moment. However, الدال على الخير كفاعله. He who points people, who shows people how to perform good deeds, is like he who performs them. He tells him, go to he who is loved by Allah and His Messenger. and he who loves Allah and His Messenger. A person who will favor Allah over himself. Meaning, this person will give others and will sacrifice for their sake. He tells him, go to the door, go to the house of Fatima salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha. Then he turns to Bilal and he tells Bilal rahmatullah alayhi, Bilal, take this man and let him stand in front of the house of Fatima. Bilal takes it. And the old man stands in front of the house, in front of the door of Lady Zahra, the door of heaven. And he says in his loudest voice, Assalamu alaikum ya ahla bayt al-nubuwah, peace be upon you, O household of prophethood, O essence of the message, O people who are constantly visited by angels, O people on whom Jibreel descends with the messages of the Lord of the worlds. Fatima responds. She says, and peace be upon you. Who are you? He tells her, I am an old Arabic man who has come from a distant land. I came to your father, the master of mankind. I am hungry and I am without clothes, as in I only have this garment on me, the garment you can see. Fawasini, so bestow your favor upon me. May Allah bless you. Help me, O Fatima. May Allah bless you. Fatima salamullah alayha didn't have much to give. So what did she do? She grabbed a rug she had in her house on which Hassan and Hussein would sleep, salamullah alayhima. This rug was made out of the skin of a ram. So she threw it, she gave it to the old man. And she told him, take this. Hopefully Allah will relieve you from your distress and will grant you what is better than it. When the man saw the rug, he was not pleased. He told her, O daughter of Muhammad, I came to you complaining about hunger, and you give me this rug. How will this rug help me when I am tired and hungry? So Sayyidah Zahra does what at that point? Sayyidah Zahra had a necklace on her blessed neck. This necklace, she had been given the necklace by her cousin Fatima bint al-Hamza alayhi salam. So she rips off the necklace and she throws it to the man. And she tells him, take this necklace and sell it. Hopefully Allah Ta'ala will provide you with something better than it. So he takes it. Now bear in mind, Jabir says, Rasulullah, Imam Ali, and Sayyidah Fatima had spent 3 days without food. And Rasulullah knew this. He knew that it had been 3 days ever since they had eaten. Yet he knew that anyone who goes to that house will not come back empty-handed. So she throws him the necklace, he takes it, and he comes to Rasulullah. He tells him, Ya Rasulullah, Fatima gave me this necklace. And she told me, sell it. Hopefully Allah Ta'ala will relieve you from your distress, will solve your problem. When Rasulullah heard this, he cried. And he told him, how can Allah not solve your problem when Fatima, the mistress of Adam's daughters, when Fatima gave you this necklace? What he means to say is that the blessings of the Lady of Light are on this necklace. And as a result, you will attain salvation, inshallah. At this point, Ammar rahmatullah alayhi rises. And he tells the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ya Rasulullah, do you give me permission to buy this necklace? He tells him, Ya Ammar, buy it. Buy the necklace. For if the jinns and the humans altogether participated in buying or owning this necklace, none of them would have been punished in hellfire. Look at the blessings of Fatima sallallahu alayha. So Ammar addresses the old man and he tells him, how much do you want for this necklace? He tells him, I want 3 things. I want a meal consisting of meat and bread. And I want the meal to satisfy my hunger. And I want a Yemeni cloak that I can wear during Salat, that I can use to clothe myself. And I want one golden coin that I could use to go back home, to go back to my family. Ammar told him, I will give you 20 golden coins and 100 silver coins. And I'll give you a meal consisting of meat and bread. And I'll give you my animal, my camel or horse or donkey. And I'll give you a Yemeni cloak. When the man heard this, he was quite content, he was happy. He said, you're very generous. Ammar rahmatullah alayhi fulfilled the promise and took the necklace. Now look at the muwali, the one who understands the value of such items. Ammar rahmatullah alayhi, he perfumed the necklace with musk and he wrapped it with a Yemeni cloak and he sent it with a slave of his called Saham. He told him, go to Rasulullah and give him this necklace and know that from now on you belong to Rasulullah. As in, I, your master, have given you to the Prophet. So Saham went and conveyed Ammar's message. Rasulullah told him, go to Fatima and give her the necklace and know that from now on you are Fatima's. As in, you are the slave of Fatima alayhi salam. He went to Fatima. He gave her the necklace. Fatima took the necklace and freed the young man. When she freed him, he laughed. So she told him, what makes you laugh, O young man? He said, I'm laughing due to the great blessings that are instilled in this necklace. This necklace fed a hungry man to the point it satisfied his hunger. It clothed a person who did not have clothes. It enriched a poor man, freed a slave, and returned to its owner. This is a glimpse, and I see a glimpse of her blessing, salamullahi alayha. Tonight we have come to celebrate her birth anniversary, and I believe all of us have needs, correct? Everyone, including myself. We all have needs. Let us turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Him for the sake of Al-Mubarakah, the blessed lady, Fatima salamullah alayha, to grant us our needs, to place us in the highest levels of heaven with Fatima Zahra alayha salam, to make us ascetics, zuhad, to make us from those who seek nearness to Allah Azza wa Jal. اللهم اقضِ حاجة كل محتاج لا سيما حوائج إخواني وأخواتي الحاضرين ولا سيما من سألني الدعاء بحق مولاتنا الزهراء عليها السلام. Let us pray for the sick. There is a dua that has been requested. Let us turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Him to heal the sick with the holy verse, inshaAllah. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ 5 times. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ 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 يا الله 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 اللهم شاف وعافي كل مريض بحق مولانا إمامنا زين العابدين عليه السلام وبحق مولاتنا فاطمة العليلة عليها السلام شافهم يا رب بشفائك وداوهم بدوائك اللهم ارحم أمواتنا وأموات المؤمنين والمؤمنات لا سيما المنسين الذين لا يذكرهم ذاكر ولا سيما الشهداء العظام إلى أرواحهم جميعا نبعث ثواب مجلسنا هذا وثواب الفاتحة تسبقها صلاة على محمد وآل محمد